Welcome to Slow News Day Live. My name is Steve Poikinen. I am here in Boulder Creek, California, and with me is my good friend Jason Carney. Jason, what's up, man? How you doing?
What is up? How's it going?
Fucking weird as always.
Cartoon?
Man, I was actually inspired to make a video titled that just because I saw where Hillary Clinton was keynoting a cybersecurity conference.
Hashtag irony. Hashtag Looney Tunes.
And I couldn't I couldn't deal with that. I really couldn't. It was too much.
If anybody is an expert in cybersecurity, here's looking at you, Secretary of State Clinton, with your email server and all that other fun stuff. She's the perfect person to talk about it and what not to do.
Somebody made the joke that she was gonna run the OPSEC on how to wipe a server.
Whoever said that needs to be given an award.
That was Brooke Hines. I'm almost 100% positive that was Brooke Hines that said that.
Sounds about right.
Brooke hosts a show called Progressive News Network. She's cool as fuck. Check her show out.
For sure.
Weekly radio show. What the shit?
Gotta support one another.
Oh, I wanted to do, what the fuck is that? Oh, that's right. I was trying to share the show. At any rate, let me fucking figure my shit out. So we got a couple of like what appear to be bright spots about Julian Assange over the weekend and coming into this morning. And I want to touch on them real quick. And I know that you have short time. I'll probably dive back into all of this after you got to go. So whenever you do, just,
the safe word is broccoli.
The safe word is broccoli. You know what, man? I worked at a Taco Bell once in Anderson, Indiana. And fucking, that was what like the douchebag at the drive-thru would say if a super hot chick pulled up. He would yell out broccoli. And like 4 guys would come running. It was great. But anyway. There's a couple of bright spots, or appear to be bright spots, about Julian Assange. The first is he's not being charged for exposing for the Vault 7 drop.
Right.
Which, if you haven't, go read Vault 7. It gives you all kinds of delightful information about what the CIA can do with your computer, and that they can leave digital footprints that lead back to anyone they want. Like, let's say, I don't know, unknown Russian hackers, in case there's a hack of the DNC's servers. So he won't be charged for that. He will be charged for all of the stuff related to the Chelsea Manning era leak. What he's not essentially being charged for is doing journalism. That's what he's not being charged for. What that looks like to me is a couple of different things. The most important being, now the US media gets to stop pretending like they ever gave a fuck about this guy, because their necks aren't on the line anymore as long as journalism itself isn't being put on trial through Julian Assange. Then it also sent another signal to me when I saw this over the weekend. I'm like, oh, well, okay, that means they're solely building their case on collateral murder. That's from 2010. They didn't launch the I don't think they hit him with the fake sexual assault allegations until 2011.
Right. That came to Sweden in early 2011, if I remember correctly.
So Sweden's off the hook.
Right.
What happens this morning?
Do tell.
Sweden decides they're not going to prosecute.
Wait, what you're telling me is what the UN, activists like ourselves, other major legal scholars have been saying, that these charges were trumped up bullshit? just to try to get him extradited to the U.S. Is that what you're saying?
So there were a handful of different podcasts and shows over the last several years that have outed the accuser, who was never a rape allegation. It was failure to obtain consent to not wear a condom during consensual sex.
Right.
I think was the allegation.
But they made it sound like he was a rapist.
Right. Well, yeah, because you have to.
That's not a smear campaign. That's just journalism. That's the fourth estate doing their job, coming to a conclusion before any evidence, let alone all the evidence, is gathered. Come on.
So that happened. So Sweden decides they're not gonna prosecute in absentia. They're not gonna pursue. They're not gonna extradite. It's not gonna happen. They're done. While this is happening, there are a couple of different radio shows going live that were saying, we can attest to the fact that this woman was coerced by the CIA, the U.S. U.S. intelligence, Supreme Court thing.
Like we've been saying.
This is all payback for the Chelsea Manning stuff. Like the DNC leak that, in my opinion, resulted in the murder of Seth Rich is ancillary to any of the charges. It's just not what they're going after him for. And they have Chelsea Manning too, torturing her again. John Kiriakou has made the point several times that were Julian Assange to be extradited here, he would in no way, shape, or form have any semblance of a public hearing. He would not, his lawyers would not be allowed to see the evidence that was being used against him under the umbrella of national security. The whole thing would be done in the dark under national security. Whatever jury has been impaneled is going to be directly related to the intelligence community that has been fucking looking for this guy's head forever. There's no daylight and no semblance of a fair trial of this.
Did you expect that to happen? I mean,
there's a lot of people who still fucking drink the Kool-Aid, right?
Right. But there was never any semblance or any expectation that he would receive a fair and open trial that'd be open to the public to see what the charges were and how the defense was.
That's the whole QAnonymous crude delusion, man. That's the whole fucking delusion, and they're pushing this bullshit to a lot of people. That's a bigger audience than anybody wants to admit. Whether or not it's inflated due to fucking 4chan and 8chan accounts, I don't know, man. I don't. Like, I hear that shit in town when I go to fucking work. There's people that are all, trust the plan, trust the fucking, I was reading it's the only thing that you swear to God. Dude in town said, reading that message board is the only thing that fucking gives me comfort at night.
So wait, let me get this straight. I think it's very public, my passion for the law, my weird, almost religious-like devotion to law. And some have called me naive in the past for doing that. But even I, as soon as all this shit went down, never for a second hesitated in thinking that this was going to be a secret kangaroo court that occurred. None of the things would be brought to light. The public would have next to none, if any, zero, of any of the transcripts of the trial, anything that's going on in the trial, how long the trial has happened, how it's happening. There was no expectation whatsoever. Anybody who's realistic and rational could see that this was not going to happen. This isn't going to be your typical trial. This is going to be a trial that is quote unquote terroristic for anybody who's been captured by ISIS, Al Qaeda, or whatever, and brought over to the United States. This is some Gitmo shit.
Shit. I'm going to go back to right where I initially landed, though. This provides the U.S. media with cover now to run back to Chuck Todd's narrative that he's not a journalist, he's a hacker, and fucking that bullshit that I don't know if you saw that. I know Jimmy Dore did something on it. Jamarl he was talking about it earlier. Chuck Todd came out and he fucking got it almost right about Julian Assange. Like Rachel Maddow got it almost right about Julian Assange. Everybody in what fucking Gordon Dimmack called the Mockingbird media, which I just fucking love, and I'll hat tip him every time. But holy crap, is that beautiful? They get it half right, and then they smear it because
Right.
they have to other Julian Assange.
Anybody who's been associated with Julian Assange, Anonymous, Antifa, Bernie Sanders campaign, progressives, we all know how this script goes. They come out with only so much truth, and then they alter, twist, pervert, and create the narrative that this person, this group, this whatever else is absolutely evil.
Well,
And that's the objective.
And I hate to draw a parallel to, well, you can draw a parallel to anyone that this Mockingbird media has not deemed in the big club.
Right.
And right now that includes Donald Trump and Julian Assange and fucking Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard and anyone who they're not okay with doing the war crimes.
And for the record, fuck Trump. We're just throwing that out there.
Of course, man. Of course. No. And this is my point. They go after his character because if they went after his policies, they'd have to be like, oh, but fuck, we made the Bush tax cuts permanent. Oh, but
Right.
fuck, we did lock up children in cages.
Right. They expose the hypocrisy.
You know, it would take away the illusion that they're not a deeply cynical right-wing party whose sole purpose is to be the graveyard of progressive ideas.
Well,
you know,
my summation of that would be is that, and you're spot on when you say this, if you were to expose his policies, his failed policies, it would be up against the failed Democratic policies, and everybody's policies would be exposed, and therefore the argument that's been made by us saying that the duopoly is an utter failure and the status quo is going to kill this country would be proven correct. So of course they're not going to be able to go after him in that sense.
So that's what they're doing with Julian Assange. It's what they're going to continue to do. I was over the Unity for Jay Vigil on Friday. There were a couple of good points raised, and they were like, look, if Trump is serious about extraditing this guy, if the Justice Department is serious about extraditing this guy, if the U.S. intelligence community wants a hold of him, they're going to make sure that he comes out of that hospital ward in good health, or at least functioning enough to stand trial.
Right.
Which is what he is not right now.
He's been very ill for what I understand for the last 2 years. He hasn't been able to receive any medical care. He hasn't been able to leave the embassy. He's been very limited in almost every sense of normal human function. It's war crimes at this point. It's rights against humanity. It
is crimes against humanity. That was confirmed in the report.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of psychological torture that he's been through can't be determined in a 4-hour interview, but you can get the overall feel where somebody is on a scale.
Oh, right.
Not necessarily the scope of it. What I'd like to bring up, though, before we turn to Israel and the mess that was the elections in the Knesset and what Bibi's up to.
Boy, I've been paying attention to that.
Is so far the only people who have benefited from these good turns for Julian Assange are the corporate media, the Mockingbird media, the U.S. intelligence community, who guarantee you as soon as fucking Vault 7 came out, they had immediately trashed 90% of not only the source code for their fingerprint program, but fucking had an entire crew of fucking hardened monkeys working on sorting out new ways to do it.
Hardened monkeys. I love it. Keep going. Don't let me stop you.
So
Pardon monkeys.
the CIA's got a brand new fucking toy, and nobody knows about it because the only guy who would print it has been fucking locked away in an embassy for a year, and now is in the Guantanamo Bay of Britain. So they've got they can try him as a hacker now. They don't have to equate US journalists to it. The CIA fucking has a brand new toy that nobody knows about. These good turns for him that we're seeing don't really seem to benefit Julian Assange too much. I will recognize it as a win for us as independent journalists that we get to keep the veneer of the First Amendment a little while longer. Stoked on that, you know. Thank you. Good looking out. But who knows how the fuck long that's gonna last? You know, there's a hashtag trending now, and I swear to fucking God, dude, like it's synchronicity or collective consciousness or whatever, man. But it says I am Julian Assange, and I was like, holy fuck, a couple of days ago to myself in my head, wouldn't it be cool if this kind of worked out like the story of B, the Daniel Quinn novel, where fucking when the one got assassinated, somebody else was like, nope, too late, I'm B. And somebody is like, no, I'm B. That's me. And fucking he wanted us to be his voice. I think we should be his fucking voice. And it's totally fucking free one way or the other.
It's one of those things. Sadly, it's one of those things where you run into the situation where he was just trying to get a message of transparency out. He was trying to do what journalists refuse to do. And at the end of the day, he's penalized for it, for being a real journalist, for doing it the right way and bringing to light what the hell was going on in Iraq at that time.
Yeah, and for his work, you know, he's been psychologically tortured for a decade, and made to be a prisoner in a small area. Chelsea Manning is still in prison and being tortured. John Kiriakou was fucking in prison for exposing the CIA torture program in the first place.
Right.
In touch with him, gonna have him back on soon.
I'd definitely like to talk to him.
We'll be in the studio Thursday to have Elizabeth Voss on. I know she's gonna have some good stuff to say, and you should go check out the like 5-minute clip from the Unity for J Vigil of Elizabeth Voss breaking down the Q narrative. It's
do you have the link that we can throw into the description?
I will, yeah. I will try and remember to link it in the description this time. If I don't, somebody can holler at me and say, hey, you didn't fucking put the thing in, and I'll go back and do it.
What it boils down to, and let me say this from I don't know if you call it an outside position, but just a First Amendment person. Whether you like Julian Assange or you hate Julian Assange, whether you have feelings of absolute hatred or love for the man, don't get it mistaken. This is an attack on our constitutional rights. This is an attack on real journalism. This is an attack on the people who are seeking to expose the truth to the masses so that the masses know what the hell is going on in their government. This is not patriotic. This is not something to your benefit. This is to further silence those that seek to expose the lies and the bullshit that our governments across the world are perpetrating on a day in, day out basis. Don't get it twisted. You don't have to love Julian Assange to see what this is. This is a battle for the heart and soul of journalism, of the First Amendment, and of truth. So love him or hate him, get on board, because you're essentially fighting for your right to be able to read, to be able to petition, to protest, to everything the First Amendment covers. You want a free and unfettered media. You don't want a media that's owned by corporations. You don't want one that's just passing down propaganda from governments. You want a WikiLeaks style, even an RT style media outlet that's going to go after things, even if it pisses people off. I mean, don't get it twisted. You know, Julian Assange, whether you love him or hate him, is a representative of the real fight that's going on. So don't ignore it. Don't blow it off. You know, focus, get involved, demand answers for this bullshit. Well, that's just my saying.
No, I mean, I agree with that. I would also say that we used to have the fairness doctrine, and that allowed not necessarily for a WikiLeaks style publication, but at least an opposite view aired at the same time, in counter to what the
Wasn't that done
the
away with in the late
controversial view was.
70s?
87, that was
Okay.
repealed.
Okay. So I
Ronald
remember it was
Reagan
during a
repealed that,
conservative
and
administration.
and then Bill Clinton merged the independent corporations into 6 large ones, and then the Patriot Act fucking made everyone access journalists if they still wanted their job, and they could out CIA agents. They could then, but now everybody's mad because Julian Assange outed some people when the Pentagon wouldn't get back to him.
Woodward and Bernstein would be rolling in their graves.
Except for they don't care.
I know. I'm being sarcastic.
uh,
They pulled the same thing, and they are hailed as two of the most inspiring, courageous journalists, besides Walter Cronkite. And at the end of the day, the things that they did don't even stack up to what Julian Assange pulled off. All in seeking the truth.
You know what though, man? Daniel Ellsberg gives credit to both Cy Hirsch and Bob Woodward for like allowing him, like wanting finally, like him having the courage to come forward with the Pentagon Papers.
That's great, but
and
where are they right now with Assange?
Yeah, Bob Woodward said some critical shit about Russiagate, which I appreciated. Good for him. I don't know what Bob Woodward's take on Julian Assange is. I honestly don't.
We'll have to look that up.
I don't. I don't know how much time you have, but if you want to touch
5
on,
minutes.
okay, if you want to touch on the Israel thing, please do, because I got a great Mint Press article to go with it.
Fantastic. If you have been paying attention, Benjamin Netanyahu failed to bring together a coalition government. He recently won, his party, the Likud party, recently won their elections, and it was by a very narrow margin. And essentially what happened is he didn't have a majority to build a majority government. In the parliamentary system, you either have a majority government or you have a coalition government that's led by the party that brings in the most votes. So say, for example, the Likud party, which is a very right-leaning party in Israel, they're going to try to find center-right and other far-right parties to come together to form a majority government. Now, for the first time in Israel's history, absolutely first time in Israel's history, Netanyahu was unable to bring this coalition together so that they could run Israel, which means, if I'm not mistaken, in September, they're going to have snap elections to try to do this all over again, to see if they can bring the Likud into majority, to bring together parties that'll work with the Likud party, etc. So it's a giant FUBAR situation in Israel. They've never dealt with it. It's all new terrain. It means that a lot of any type of actions that were going to take place, whether it's security, economic, any policies, are probably going to be held up till after these snap elections. And it all hinges on, and there's a couple of different stories coming out, but one that seems to be gaining the most traction is Netanyahu was seeking, if you don't know, Netanyahu is facing a lot of charges, whether it be conspiracy, bribery, etc. He's looking at a lot of charges. And the only thing that's stopping him from being prosecuted is that he's the sitting prime minister. Now, rumor has it from very good sources is that Netanyahu was seeking with this coalition government as a kind of a bribe to them to give them seats of power. And oh boy, did I lose everybody? Are we good?
I see. Oh, okay, there you are.
Are we good? Essentially, to bring these people on and put them in positions of power, that Netanyahu is demanding that he receives immunity from these particular charges. And the other party said, no, that's not going to work for us. And it's really interesting that a guy who says he's not guilty, that says he has nothing to do with these charges, he's an innocent man, is seeking immunity to form a coalition government.
Well, I mean, that's what you do when you got nothing to hide, right? He was Mossad, right? He knows better than to talk to cops. I mean, fuck.
But that's the thing. I mean, and you can touch on this article, but my frustration is immense. I'm one of those leftists that support the state of Israel and very anti-Israel government. I'm anti-Likud. I'm anti-center to center-right parties that exist within Israel that seek to constantly hold down Palestine, to keep it under oppression, to kill innocent people, to do the things that they've done, the crimes against humanity and war crimes that they've committed against the Palestinians, and the constant agitation that they do with different actors such as Iran, Lebanon, Syria, the constant agitation to create a problem within the Middle East. This particular government is a plight and a cancer, and it's a real issue. So to see Netanyahu go down would be one of the most glorious things ever if you pay attention to Israel politics, or excuse me, Israeli politics.
What do you know about Benny Gantz?
Next to nothing at this point.
So,
Ooh.
if I have it right, what blew up was that Netanyahu could have him on board in his coalition government as like Minister of Defense or something like that if he said, no, we're not going to do a conscription draft, because that's what his party wants.
Right?
His party wants a conscription draft, and he's the ostensible head of that party. This is the second most powerful guy in Israel. So
former defense minister, I believe, and he's Orthodox.
Yeah. I thought, well, a current, I thought.
Well, I could be wrong, but the last I heard,
I'm probably wrong, but yeah, but the grand bargain was supposed to be, you drop conscription, you and your party can have the defense ministry,
right?
And then we can bring it up in the Knesset after your coalition is part of my ruling party. And they were trying to, and the party wouldn't go for it, and so that's holding them up. What that does in terms of, are they going to stop bombing fucking Gaza? No. Are they going to stop being an apartheid state like they legally declared last year? No, they're not going to do that. Are we going to continue to funnel them money? Yeah. The thing that gets me is that conscription is too far to the right for Bibi Netanyahu. And yet, if they vote in 3, it's like they got like 3 months or 2.5 months to figure this out. And if they do that, then, and he loses, or somehow like fails to bring forth the coalition through whatever means he has, then the guy who thought conscription was a good idea is now in charge of not just Israel, but a more far right form of Zionism. And that is exactly not
the Trump-Pence dilemma.
Well, they're naming a division in the Golan Heights after him.
And we all know about the Golan Heights. That's not a disputed territory at all.
But there's going to be a neighborhood with Donald Trump's name on it. And that was a gift from Bibi.
Yeah, Netanyahu's the worst thing to happen to the state of Israel.
Literally. You know what gets me is that the Q people are anti-Zionism, is what they say. And they stand for Donald Trump all day long.
Which is really an awkward position to take.
Dude, the amount of not just mental gymnastics you need for that, but literal physical gymnastics to place your head that far up your own ass. Like, it's just, you got to be bendy.
Does anybody seriously take QAnon at all with any credibility or anything? Because if you did, you have to be pretty stupid. You have to be pretty uneducated to take anything that they say seriously.
Right. So it's cult like. I mean, think about it, dude. It's the Elizabeth Boss said it. I'm gonna quote her, but you should watch it anyway. Um, but it's swung around to like the opposite end of the Russiagate cult.
Okay.
Uh,
And that makes sense. We saw how that swept America.
but I mean, it's the same kind of thing where you've got people who are only given who have a predisposed political bias, who are given uh, a mystery or a puzzle, a small amount of information, a credible fact or two, or what appears to be a credible fact or two, and then that's fucking it.
Yeah.
And their imagination does the rest. They fill in the blanks on their own with their own biases. And that's exactly how smart people fell for Russiagate, or at least otherwise
Right.
smart people fell for Russiagate. That's how smart people go in for Q. It's the same fucking answers that are scripted that they all deliver like it fucking means something.
Right.
It's Mueller time.
All right. This is sadly the part where I say broccoli.
All right.
But tomorrow, come hell or high water, we're doing a show and it's going to be a lot longer because there's a lot more to discuss here when it comes to Israel and a couple other things. You're going to be interviewing some people soon that's going to be a great conversation to pick up on too. So we talked about this before the show. I wanted to touch on that, but sadly I don't have enough time. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about your next couple of guests, and let's cross our fingers and get that done tomorrow. Let's go. Let's knock that out.
Yeah, for sure. Just hit me up with a time and we'll make it happen.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a blast.
Cheers, Jay.
Later, brother.
I'm gonna go myself and check back in about 10 minutes. It sounds like my kids are about ready to kill each other. So I will be back here shortly. This has been Slow News Day Live. That was Jason Carney. I'm Steve Poikinen. Good luck to us all.